Hello, everybody, and welcome to our conversation around why Black Lives Matter. So today is part 43, and the BLM team that have been having this conversation for the greater part of 11 months have decided that we'd like to share our conversation with all of you in the Twin Flames Universe Open Forum today and invite you to share the healing and your insights with us. So please feel free to share your comments, any thoughts that you have, and experiences that you might have had as well in relation to people of color and the perception of harmonious twin flame union, and whether it's for everybody or not, and how you perceive it from your perspective as a person of color. And also just our sense of community and belonging within the Twin Flames universe community. So I'm going to open it up to everybody that's live on the call with us today and invite them to share their thoughts and insights, and we'll allow the conversation to just progress as we go along. So thank you for joining us and welcome to everybody.
So yeah, I think like one of the reasons we wanted to extend this discussion today to the Twin Flame Universe Open Forum is that we believe that healing racism is a big part of the Twin Flame journey, and that healing within ourselves is going to help like a lot of people of color come into union eventually. And so we wanted to extend that to our Black brothers and sisters and people of color in general. And yeah, just like make everyone in the community feel like they are invited and that they are divine, and that yeah, it's okay to be seen. And yeah, so I feel like some of us know a lot of people of color in the community, but we have realized that we don't often see them like in the open forum or with everyone else. And so yeah, we kind of have to fill into that and see like what's blocking people of color from being seen and from participating more today. So like anyone has thoughts on that?
Yeah, so Yoreen, I think one of the things that you touched on quite a bit was the energy of being seen and the energy of being heard. And I think that that's possibly something that we as a community, also in having this conversation, can definitely feel into and heal, given that we've been here quite a while. We are part of the community. I think it was important to just also invite everybody to share themselves in the open forum as well. Because one of the pieces that I think we have learned through in our experience of healing is that sharing part completes the healing process. And you may have a piece that somebody else might gain from or benefit from, or even just an insight that leads them to the place where an upset exists for them. So I think it's a nice thing to just kind of share that we like everybody to share. And yeah, we would like to extend the invite. So definitely to the members of color within the community. It is a safe, divine community, and the fact that we're all here and we're all showing up is also just testament to the fact that you are also safe here. And so that's one of the things that we needed to kind of just share in terms of highlighting the unity and harmony within Twin Flames universe.
I'd love to share something. Marley, before I share though, do you have something you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, well, like I'm this is very like Twin Flames universe, like it's obviously like you see a lot of white people. So you know, I'm feeling into it, and it feels like, you know, there's like apprehension to like fully open up, you know, to around this, and you know, that's something we can dive deeper into healing. But yeah, you can go ahead and share, Ray.
Awesome. So I wanted to give some historical background and to kind of give a little bit more clarity as to why the healing racism at the core is what brings about perfect union, which is what we're all here on the journey towards, right? Perfect union with God. You know, it's not just union and being with your boo thing. It's not just being in harmonious union with your boo thing and God, but it is being in harmonious union with all of God's creation, with God completely. And that's perfect union. And then we talk a lot about that within this group. And one of the things that I've been diving into, I've been looking at a lot of the history as to the, you know, the Black Lives Matter causes and going all the way back to slave trade and things like that. And what we've come to realize a lot around is around the idea of divinity. And do you believe that you are divine, right? And so what I've at least found along the path is that there's been a lot of trauma over centuries. We're talking like 4 different centuries, right? Where people of color have been treated as if they're not divine. And you can't treat someone as not divine if you don't also believe that you're not divine, right? It stems at the core. So the upset here that we have as a community as a whole is that we don't feel divine. And so if you are not of color, it's accepting your divinity and seeing the divinity in another. If you are of color, it's also seeing that you are divine and seeing the divinity in another. And ultimately, that's what cultivates perfect union, is when we can all see the divine in each other. And so this is mainly why we're bringing the conversation here today. Last week, we actually talked about divine masculinity and how men of color have trouble seeing their divinity based on this trauma that has followed them for centuries. And it's something that follows, I think, within masculinity as a whole. We have the conversation a lot of the times in this open forum about how, you know, divine masculine finally coming home, right? The divine masculine finally seeing that he is divine. Well, masculine and the feminine are one. So therefore, we all must see that we are divine. So I just want to open it up with that and just kind of give a little bit more details as to like why we brought this here and what, like, really seeing the importance of healing this core block for humanity is what benefits all of us.
I love that. And another thing I wanted to add to that is, like, you know, maybe like you're white and your twin flame is white and you don't have to deal with racism necessarily. This is still a really important part of like conversation to be a part of, because maybe you are like healing some sort of ism or phobia, you know, like sexism, ableism, transphobia, homophobia, any of that. And it's all, you know, all of it has a core, you know, is the same core upset of like not believing you're divine, like Ray said. So, you know, even if you're not Black, it's this conversation is for you too.
Yeah, because like, it could be your cousin, you know, that you're helping heal. I know, like, there's white people who are related to Black people. So like, you know, it's like what Ray's saying, like we're all one. So we're all like having to just heal this together, no matter what color we are, race, however you want to say it.
Yeah, and I think Marley touched on quite an important part in terms of the fact that the healing doesn't take place in isolation. So there's a call in consciousness and in collective consciousness for this type of healing and this level of healing to take place. And the healing modality of the mirror exercise is probably one of the simplest and easiest healing modalities for things of this nature, because it looks at the core of the wound inside of you. And so just bringing you back to that peace all the time and bringing you back to that love all the time, and understanding that at the core, we are that one child of God, we are that one student, we are that one teacher. And it becomes a very different feeling to have. And so one of the things that I kind of just have been working through this week as well in my coaching session with Kobe and Keely was, sometimes we look very much at the core of the upset and sometimes we forget to look at the surface of it. And so something that is very deeply rooted starts somewhere. And one of the things that I found in my healing was the perception that men of color are unsophisticated, for instance. And yet in my reality, there were more examples of men of color being sophisticated than unsophisticated. But because of the fact that there was that layer of healing that I needed to go through and the upset that I wasn't actually looking past, or into in great depth, I wasn't allowing in the evidence. So I almost had this filter of these are those people. And yet the minute I healed, or even just that it came into my awareness, I was able to understand, well, actually, there's greater evidence to support a much healthier view of life and a much healthier view of men of color, and by association, a much healthier view of myself, because I'm seeing the world from a different perspective and it doesn't feel like such an uncomfortable place. And then the other thing that came up was kind of, nobody wakes up one day and decides that they're going to mess something up. So at the core of it, we still need to understand that there's a person there. And that's why I appreciate when Jeff and Shaleia say to us, you kind of got to love something all the way through to be able to release it. And that just kind of brought back that message of, at the core of it, there's still a person. You can have very strong boundaries. You can be very clear about what you will not accept. But at the end of the day, that is still God's child. And so seeing that as God's child means that you are just connecting more with God in that space. You are building a deeper relationship with God in that space. And I think that that's the core of the teaching of Twin Flames Universe, the Church of Union, and unionism itself is just that core of the relationship with God and how you cultivate that and how you feel into that and how you relax into that. And so that allows you to accept your divinity much more easily as well. So I want to open that up to everybody and see how you feel about those little core concepts that I think starts to bring us closer to understanding that at the core, even though there's an upset related to people, at the core, we're still one. And at the core, we're still divine. And it's something that Ray also touched on in terms of how well do we accept and receive our own divinity.
Yeah, what's just said is kind of spot on, and I kind of want to put that into practice right now, if it's okay. Like, what I've been feeling in the open forum and even in this discussion is that kind of, shyness to speak up, and yeah, maybe a little bit of resistance. And I think it would be good to heal that for everyone.
Okay, so do you want to just take a deep breath and feel into what that feeling is?
Yeah, sure.
Now just breathe into that space. And just allow that feeling to come up. And what is that feeling right now?
I think there's some fear of, I guess, doing something bad or saying something bad.
So there's a fear related to showing up and an expectation to be something other than you are. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, like an expectations to be perfect, otherwise I don't want to show myself.
And so if you release the narrative of that expectation and feel into the space where you are already God's perfect child, what do you have to do to be perfect?
Just be myself.
Exactly. You have to do nothing other than be yourself in order to be perfect, because you were made that way. You are God's perfect child. You are God's divine child. And so when you allow that new awareness to settle in, what's the next feeling that comes up?
Still fear of being seen.
Fear of being seen. And which part of you feels that she needs to hide right now? Can you see that part of yourself?
Yeah.
Can you go ahead and ask her what she needs to feel safe to be seen?
Yeah. She just needs some love and reassurance.
Do you want to go ahead and give that to her right now? Just give her all the love and reassurance that she requires. Just allow it to wash over completely. And how's she feeling now?
Still feeling bad. Feel like there's a little panicky feeling.
A little panicky feeling. That panicky feeling related to a level of anxiety?
Yeah.
And what is the anxiety asking for?
More presence.
And does she feel safe to just be present with all of herself and with all of God?
Yeah.
And how does that feel?
That feels better. Calmer.
Is there something more here? Do you feel like going deeper here?
Yeah, we can go deeper.
So just breathe past that level of healing into the next level and just allow that next feeling to surface very easily and peacefully. You don't need to go looking for it. It's already there. It's just asking for your attention. What is it?
there's a sad and hurt part.
Mm. Can you see that part of yourself that's feeling sad and hurt right now?
Mhm.
What is she calling for here? What does she need right now?
Just yeah, love.
Just love. Just like this is what you said.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Do you want to go ahead and just love her up in that space?
Mhm.
Just allow all of that love to envelop all the sadness and all the hurt, and just allow it to dissipate the sadness and the hurt very easily, very gracefully. It's the easiest thing that she's ever done for herself. It's the easiest thing she's ever going to do for herself, is just to love herself. It requires no preparation. It requires no work. It requires no effort. It's just there, and it's directly from God. And how does that feel?
That feels much better. Yeah.
Hmm. Is it feeling complete, or is there more to go here?
I feel like there's this just like general heavy feeling dissipating right now.
The heaviness is dissipating. That's
Mhm.
beautiful. That's awesome. Well done there.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you want to go a bit deeper here?
Yeah. I just yeah, I don't exactly know the feeling that it's pointing to.
You don't know the feeling that it's pointing to. So do you allow for God to just provide all the clarity that you require right now, easily and effortlessly?
Yeah.
And so when you allow clarity to prevail, what comes up for you?
There's a pain in my heart at the feeling of at the idea of speaking up, I guess.
Could that pain be meaning that you believe that speaking your truth could hurt you?
Yeah.
But what is the truth in this space?
That hurt is not real.
And where does all your safety and all your love and all your protection actually come from?
From God.
And so can God be taken away from you?
No.
And so all the gifts that God gives you can't be taken away either, right?
No, I can't.
And so you can allow your heart to relax and know that you are an expression of God and an expression of God's truth. And so you can share God's truth. So how does your heart feel now in that space where you may have been afraid to speak up before?
Yeah, it feels peaceful now.
Good. Does it feel complete?
It does, yeah.
Awesome. So would you like to just allow all of that healing to just settle completely into your heart space and into your core, and just allow it to flow perfectly through your body, and just ground perfectly. Good. How you
Yeah,
feeling?
feeling good.
Good. Awesome. So is there something that you wanted to share before that you may not have been comfortable to share, and now you're very peaceful to share it?
Nothing is coming to mind except the fact that, yeah, there is this big energy, but it's like I didn't allow myself to sit in that and just ground in that, really claim it.
Good. And it's safe to claim. It's safe to claim all your good. It's yours anyway. It doesn't belong to everybody else. It belongs to you. Everybody else has their good, and they can make a new choice to always allow themselves to receive their good at any given time.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you.
I'm feeling like Kenisha has a card, maybe, for us.
Yeah, we have surrender your belief in scarcity. The universe is asking you to open to the infinite nature of abundance. And this way you can remove blocks in your life and succeed beyond your wildest dreams.
That makes sense, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was good to heal for consciousness that like Black people are not living in scarcity. It's a lie. Like we can have our goods, we can have our twin flame union. It's not a faraway dream, but it's not a lot for us. So yeah, good.
Yeah, I think that I might have the next piece here. I keep getting kicked out of the Zoom call. And what was coming up to me was that a lot of people of color have a fear of stepping into their power, speaking up because they're fearful of being rejected and not received or accepted as the divine being that they are. And so I wasn't going to speak up because I keep getting kicked out of class. I was just like, no, this is the next piece. So I'm here. Yeah, no, there's no reason to fear rejection if you're choosing to accept all of your divinity. That's what's coming to me. And it's really coming back to like not rejecting God's love in this space and really receiving all of God's love. He doesn't like pick favorites or like, I'm going to love you here. That's something I was also working through with believing that spiritual arrogance is believing that my brothers and sisters didn't have God just as much as I had God. And really choosing to see that God will move through anyone and everyone, that it's safe to receive the divinity in everyone, including myself. And so knowing that I can't be rejected if I'm not rejecting myself here.
Yeah, so how are you feeling right now? What feelings are coming up for you?
So I do have a little bit of fear coming up.
Mm-hmm. And what's that fear when you look at it?
Yeah, it was just a fear of like being kicked out or like being excluded, I guess.
Mm. In your consciousness where you're choosing to exclude yourself or reject yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. What does this part of you need right now?
To know that I'm worthy of all of God's love and that I don't have to do anything to receive it.
Yeah. God loves you unconditionally, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, 1 second. Yes. I'm in class.
Oh, we go to the tower.
When I'm done, I'm in class right now. I'm talking. Thank you. Sorry about that.
That's okay. How are you feeling?
What's coming up is like claiming my innocence, especially when children come in. They just remind you of like how pure and innocent you are. I think that's what God is really wanting me to see myself as just his pure innocent child that he just wants to love.
Yeah. You're God's daughter. Do you choose to receive all the love that he has for you here?
Yes, I do choose to receive all the love that he has for me here.
Good. How does it feel to recognize this?
Feels good. I feel safe, secure. Yeah.
Good.
Mm-hmm. There's still something here.
Yeah. What is that?
I guess there's like this feeling of like I'm denying my true power. Like in this denial that it somehow can leave me and that I can't just claim it and just step into that power.
Is that voice real?
No.
No. Is it safe to claim your divinity?
Yes, it is safe to claim my divinity.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel really bad to not recognize this part of yourself?
Yeah. Feels like shit.
Yeah. Do you choose to sit with God and to be with God in heaven?
Yeah, like as you said that, I was realizing that when I feel like I'm not standing in my power or like really claiming my divinity, like somehow God left me. That fear of abandonment. So I choose to release that because God never leaves you.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
How do you feel now?
Feel better. Yeah, I guess there's some sadness coming up around like people of color being fearful of speaking up. Like somehow they're going to be like harmed or like yeah, it's coming back to it not being received. I just choose to fully receive myself here.
Good. Are you safe?
Yes, I am safe.
Yeah. Are you protected?
I am protected, yes.
Good. How does it feel to claim that for yourself?
Feels peaceful.
Good.
Yeah, I'm feeling much more grounded here. Just recognizing the truth that like God is always going to give us space to be able to speak our truth and to show up, which is what he's doing here in this space. It's like we've been able to cultivate a really safe space within this community for people of color to show up and speak their truth and for us to be able to heal here without like a repercussion or a fear that somehow we're going to be like thrown out of the community or something. It's really a safe place for us to go to those dark places and heal it And so really recognizing the truth that God's always going to give us a space to be, as long as we claim it.
Yes. Yeah, you're speaking God's truth. You to speak up and share.
Yeah. And choose to honor God's truth.
Good. Do you choose to let him express himself through you?
Yes, I do choose to let God express himself through me.
Good. How does that feel?
It feels really good. Thank
Good.
you.
Yeah. Do you feel complete here?
Yes, I do.
Good. Good job.
Thanks, Drake.
You're welcome.
Okay, so our next card is surrender to the magic of who you are. We all have magic in us, even in the mundane aspects of life. Remember that you are a magical being with a uniqueness and worth that comes from just being you.
I think in regards to the card that you just pulled, like I think there's really an energy of like people feeling like they have to change, to not be themselves, to have all the good and be accepted. And yeah, when you were healing, I had this sentence repeat into me that it's really like coming into myself, like coming into my inner self. That is key to my happiness. Like it feels good to understand that deeper, and I feel like once people of color and anyone really understand that at a deeper level, like we will experience more happiness, more joy, and more lightness.
So I wanted to go into a little bit of history to maybe probe some healing and some conversation a little bit. So one of the things that I mentioned in our little group chat as well, I was like, I've just been really focused on like learning more about the Atlantic slave trade specifically, and just healing what it brings up for myself. And one of the things that I learned from a documentary that I saw was that a lot of Black women in the time where they were doing, slavery was occurring within Africa, actually married white men and were able to not be enslaved and were able to claim their power in this place. They also like really stood up for themselves in a lot of capacities. There's like documentation of like women gathering together in a house and then burning themselves to death and leaving one person to communicate the reason why that happened, as to like them saying, we are not going to be taken. And men pretty much went willingly. And so I know we talked a little bit about this last week in our group about how divine masculine specifically were, there's this sense of like holding on to a burden or something, but there's something to that. I know that there's like a lot of Black women in this chat, and so just probing to see if that feels, how that makes anybody feel, or what comes up for you in regards to that historical instance.
Well, for me, it's a lot about, it's like what we talked about with Alexandra last week, well, our last session, whenever it was. Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking of forgiveness. I don't know how I came to forgiveness, because like this could have happened to me in the past life, right? But like I'm only enslaved by my unforgiveness of all of this situation. Like it's not going to be healed if I were to be like, oh, I don't forgive so and so. Like it only hurts me. So like I've just been in my own personal life forgiving myself and like other people if I thought other people like did something to me, as I've obviously had conflicts with other people that were like racist, but like holding on to that doesn't serve me. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know if that had anything directly correlated to what you're saying. Well, I mean, yeah, kind of, because like I said, like I could have experienced that in a past life where I was a slave or something. But like, you know, moving forward is just me claiming my power.
Amen.
So yeah.
Yeah, I know we touched on this last week, but like I still feel like I'm working through the forgiveness piece as well, because there's a part of me that just feels like, so I understand like forgiveness, like Anastasia was saying, is for you, and you're releasing your relationship to the hurt, you're releasing the victim mentality. But at the same time, it still kind of feels like you're letting the perpetrator off the hook, or you're excusing their behavior. And so it kind of feels better in a sense to hold on to anger, hold on to that lack of forgiveness, because it's like, if no one else is going to acknowledge what happened was wrong, at least my anger will acknowledge it, you know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And I believe like Kanisha has talked about this before too, like forgiving someone doesn't mean that what they did was right. It's basically so that you don't hold in that anger that you're talking about. But I see your point too, like is that person correcting themselves, or do you have like a better explanation?
Yeah, like basically you're concerned about if the person is like justice.
Yeah.
If justice is being served.
Yeah, and there's many times where you just don't get that, right? Like I even remember in high school, this brings up something. I was called the N-word and I punched the girl. Like it was my immediate reaction. Not saying that that's right, but I had a friend or something that got in trouble because they had said the N-word also, and she got suspended. Well, the girl that I was involved with didn't get suspended, didn't get anything. And my mom kind of went down to school and was like, does she get disciplined too? Like, she said the N-word, that's like not good. Like, I understand my daughter's discipline is worse because of what she did, but like, what are you gonna do about this kid? Type thing. And you know, it took a lot of like prodding, and then the girl ended up having Saturday detention or something. And so like my response to like what you're going through is like this is where you trust God and you just heal yourself and heal the racism within yourself. Yeah, that specific girl, maybe she would have never got in trouble for saying the N-word, but Like I have to heal how I attracted that experience and how it made me feel, and just move forward and trust God that, like, you know, God has all the other pieces under control, because like I can't do shit to control anything, you know?
Yeah, and karma is real, right? Like, so
Yeah,
you know,
that's
like
a good point.
the fact of the matter is that like if someone is taking an action that's out of alignment with God, like they're choosing contrast, and they will experience contrast, right? And typically if someone is, you know, let's just talk about bullying in general, right? Like anyone who bullies someone is typically somebody who has a deep, profound upset of being abused and has a relationship with abuse, right, in some capacity. And so like in totality, it just makes sense to simply love yourself in the places that feel really hurt there, and place really strong boundaries where necessary, and let God take control of the justice piece, right? Yeah, because everybody receives what they choose,
Right.
and so you get to choose happiness and peace.
Yeah, I think in coaching class a few months ago, Jeff kind of talked about that. He was just like bringing up, I guess, a bully or something, and was saying like, oh yeah, of course you're not responsible for other people's feelings, but like you don't want to just go out and treat everybody like shit, you know?
Right. Well, that's out of alignment with God, right? Like,
yeah. And then he said after that, he's like, yeah, you're gonna rack up a lot of karma that way.
Yeah.
And
yeah, and like karma is just something that you like then have to move through, right? Like the mirror exercise is a way of healing karma, right? And so you know, again, like nothing's bad, nobody's evil. Like if you do an action that's incorrect, it's just teaching you the path of, you know, hey, no more contrast here. I choose peace here. I choose love here. And you know, sometimes people will choose contrast, and that's okay, right? And like that doesn't have to disturb your peace, and
good point.
And like cause you contrast, cause you to not be able to experience peace.
Yeah, because if we go back to like the example of, you know, that girl calling me the N-word, right? Like if I just heal that within myself, someone can call me that again, and it's not going to affect me the same way, because I'm not choosing that within myself anymore. So
yeah, and you might not have that come up in your reality anymore.
Right, that too.
Right. And so and like just because it does come up in your reality doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up for it either. I know I've had those instances too. And it's yeah, it's just one of the things that, like, you know, when it comes up, you just move through it, and you realize that like God is more powerful than any upset, than any conflict, than any trauma. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I really I especially like the piece about when Anastasia said, what did I do to attract this in my reality, and kind of bringing it inward like we always do, right? And so this has actually been coming up a lot because I work in corporate America. And so especially with everything going on with Black Lives Matter and race, the conversations have been happening, but I still feel like there is hesitance from my white counterparts on like acknowledging their part, or like it kind of feels like they're avoiding feeling guilty. And so to avoid any feelings of guilt, you just kind of avoid the whole conversation. And so certain things aren't being acknowledged. And so that kind of brings up an upset in me, but I can easily reflect that back to me and say, okay, well, where am I not acknowledging, my own choices in this and my own power in this, and healing that at that level. So yeah.
Amen to that. I just want to like pinpoint something as well. Shaleia posted in the open forum, I feel like a month ago, maybe, this like meme or something. And she was like, basically like, you don't have to mirror exercise like a bully or something like that. Or like, it was like basically like if you're being abused, you don't have to like continue to abuse yourself by like mirroring the abuse. Just saying no, make the choice of just saying no to the abuse, put a boundary up and walk away. And so, in some instances, maybe not in that specific instance you were talking about, but just for anybody who's watching, that is a really important thing to remember, that like abuse is not acceptable. And so you're just going to continue abusing yourself if you just continue to repeat that cycle of like, oh, where am I abusing myself? Just, you're abusing yourself by allowing it to happen. And so you let it go.
But like, you maybe block somebody. You know what I mean? Like Facebook made it really fucking easy.
Yeah.
And like maybe at work, maybe this is something, you go to HR and have them help you deal with it in the workplace. And then if your workplace doesn't, take care of you in that way, then we got like organizations like the NAACP. Sorry, I can't talk. NAACP. And like you just take each step that you're being guided to take. But you don't have to settle for abuse or like racism.
No. Yeah, and I will say this, like, as someone who is not of color, that like being in dialogues like this one and participating, watching, healing it, watching documentaries about what actually happened, I think it's so interesting that growing up, I never really learned about what happened during the Civil War, during the Atlantic slave trade. Like, I was never really taught a lot of these things in school or otherwise. And yet I was taught a lot of stories that would make me not feel comfortable around my Black brothers and sisters. And so, I think it's really important, like if you're white and you're listening, like to open your mind and open your eyes to what is happening, like, and what's going on, and heal what it brings up for you.
I mean, Deanna, do you like have a specific instance that you're dealing with right now that you like want some support with?
Well, it was more like in general, like the general awkwardness of talking about race at work and, moving past those barriers. So not necessarily like a specific instance, but I think we did heal that earlier when Yoreen was talking about like healing, speaking up and actually expressing yourself. So I think that helps too.
Yeah. One thing that's really coming to me is just like, there's nothing that can't be healed with the mirror exercise. And Jeff will always like bring you back to, okay, well, what do you need to do here? And it's just loving yourself, completely surrendering to loving yourself in that space. And also, as you were talking earlier, there was a little bit of like an energy of like there's supposed to be justice there. And to go into that space and maybe feel if there's any part of you that really feels like maybe they should be punished, and then go back into where and within you where you're feeling like you're being punished or where you feel like you've been punished, and really surrender to complete healing, which is our card here. Open fully to the loving, compassionate forces of the universe that support your physical, emotional, and spiritual healing. And just really allow yourself to go into that space where you're still holding on to anger and to that upset, and really love yourself and give yourself everything that you need there. And also what I also wanted to bring up was if there's anyone in the open forum who is still working through a trauma around racism or just growing up and having trauma deeply there. We do have MAP. I really highly recommend that you guys check out MAP if you're dealing with any trauma still that you have been able to work through and truly heal in that space, because MAP does amazing, wonderful things, and I'm very grateful that we have that. I've personally done that myself and worked through a deep upset that I had around racism as well, and has been really profound in my journey. So we also have, along with the mirror exercise, we also have MAP. So you guys can check that out as well.
The last piece I wanted to kind of end with was to just talk to the people that are in Welcome Forum and are colored about claiming our divinity, which also ties into obviously harmonious union, our life purpose, as well as our abundance. I feel like that is something that people of color need to claim more, and going back to like stepping in our power with that aspect as well. And seeing our twin flames divinity, therefore seeing ours, and just healing this within our race. So we deserve harmonious union. It's not just for white people. And that love is on the inside of us, and it's our time.
Amen. Yeah, that was something I recognized in my own personal journey, was not claiming my divinity. I was rejecting a part of me that was Black. I was ashamed that I was Black. And because I wasn't able to see myself clearly and truly, I was not able to see my twin flame clearly and truly. And as soon as I chose to really heal that, my twin flame was able to step into my space and be in my space. And so it's really having to heal all of those parts of you that you're not accepting.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. So we have reached our hour. So thank you to everybody for participating. And yes, this conversation, as I said, has been happening for the greater part of 11 months. It happens in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group on Facebook. So please, if you aren't a member already, please speak to your coach. Please send a request to add you to the group. You can follow all our previous discussions there. You can also follow our previous discussions on our Church of Union YouTube channel, where you will find all 42 previous conversations. So there's a lot of content, there's a lot of healing. So we invite you and welcome you to just go through that journey that we've been through, and also invite you to highlight any questions you may have that you believe can be discussed in this conversation as we take the conversation forward. So we thank all of you for your participation and following us, and we will see all of you next week in the Unionism Spiritual Discussion Group for our next conversation around why Black Lives Matter. Thank you, everybody.